Hi, my name is Cheese, and welcome to another Fossil Sweeper Progress Update video. If you haven't heard of the project before, you can find an overview here, but the TLDR is, it's like Minesweeper, but you're digging up fossils, and you get to build skeletons out of the stuff you find. For the past month or so, most of my attention has gone into fleshing out Museum Music Management UI, and reworking the museum-specific music implementation to better handle loading music tracks on a per-room basis. I've also made some improvements to gamepad controls in the dig phase. After adding the new dig abilities mentioned in the last video, I updated the dig phase's gamepad controls to use left and right shoulder buttons to cycle through abilities. I hadn't really thought about it, but it turns out that the placeholder find fossil ability was never accessible with gamepad controls. It's a little embarrassing, but I'd always planned to add more abilities, and I was going to catch that eventually regardless. While poking that, I also updated the default bindings for left and right triggers to act as zoom and tilt modifiers to better match mouse and keyboard behaviour. After putting together the example museum I mentioned in the last video, and talking through music implementation with Peter, we decided to expand the range of layers available for the museum music track, and also expose other music tracks from elsewhere in the game for people to add to their museum rooms for even more variation. I made a separate dialogue for holding the layer selection UI and another one for selecting available music tracks, which can be filtered and allows tracks to be previewed before saving to the current room. I've got a waveform preview with a playhead for the currently playing track, which is currently generating a waveform approximation from some placeholder data from a rhythm-based game that I was prototyping a few years back. Godot doesn't expose much for processing audio data ahead of time, but I've got some approaches that I used for that old project and some ideas that have come to me in the meantime. We'll come back to that in a future video. To tie the music management UI together, I made a music info HUD that can be seen on screen while walking around a museum room. I'm planning to do something similar for the lighting controls so that lights can be changed while you're looking at, the things that are being lit. There was a little bit of work to do on the music manager and phase transitions in order to load and play saved music tracks, as well as picking appropriate fallbacks if the saved track or the saved layers are not present. Peter had sent me a new set of layers for the default museum music, and I didn't want to break any testers' saved museums when I removed the old ones. I haven't had time to sit down and properly listen to all of the possible combinations, but I already think the variation that we're getting out of the increased number of layers makes the track a lot more versatile. Because I was abstracting things back away from hard-coded track names and behaviours, I was able to switch back on custom music without much hassle. Thanks to some unintentionally prescient decisions that past me made, the music manager just happened to be set up in a way that let me play a phase's music in another phase's music player, so all up there wasn't much refactoring of that stuff to do in order to make all of the music in the game available in the museum. To fill a small block of time in one of my regular dev streams, I also updated museum transitions to pick a valid unblocked door to enter by when using the map to travel to a non-adjacent room. Eventually I'll implement some basic pathfinding so that if a valid path between two rooms exists, then the corresponding door will be used. But for now, this makes things feel a bit better than it did when it was just using the first defined door. A very big thank you to the supporters going by on screen at the moment. Their support has helped me eat while making this game, and I am so very appreciative. A huge thanks also to Screen Tasmania, who supported this project with a small grant. Anyway, that's about it for today. If you'd like to keep track of development or try the playable prototype, you can find some links in the description. And if you're super keen to check out what we talked about here today, I make early test builds available to my supporters on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye!